6 men came for $3 million in cash, and walked out with 3 tons of gold bullion. 6,800 bars, sitting in a Heathrow warehouse, worth about £26 million in 1983. Biggest robbery in British history. It wasn't cracked by forensics, or a witness, or a confession. It was cracked by one line on a marriage certificate that nobody had thought to check. One of the robbers was married to the sister of the guard who opened the door. That's the whole case. But you need that morning first to see how close they came. 26th of November, 1983. Unit 7, Heathrow International Trading Estate, a flat grey shed beside the runway. Nothing about it says gold. It says, photocopier storage. Loading bay, chain-link fence, kettle in the corner. That's deliberate. Brinks, Matt moved valuables for banks and dealers, and the best security in the world looks boring. 6:30 in the morning, cold outside. A few men starting a shift they've started 100 times. You know that shift. Coat still on, nobody's spoken yet, somebody's waiting on the kettle. Then, at about 6:40, a side door opens from the inside. That's the first thing that's wrong. No alarm. No broken glass. No crowbar mark on the frame. The door simply opens. Men come through in balaclavas, carrying guns. They already know the layout, they already know the names. They don't search anyone out. They go straight for the 2 men who hold the vault combinations. Sit with that. Out of everyone in that building, they knew precisely which 2 heads to point guns at. What happens next is the part that gets skipped when people call this a glamorous crime. The guards are tied up, a hood goes over one man's head. Then the petrol comes out. It's poured over them. A lighter is held up. They're asked for the numbers again. One of them talked afterwards about the smell more than the fear. Petrol on your own trousers stays with you. They gave up the numbers. Anyone would have given up the numbers. That's not the failure here. The vault door swings open. The robbers are expecting pallets of banknotes, roughly $3 million, ready to lift. There's no $3 million in cash. There's something else, and for a second nobody moves. Boxes. Rows of them, sealed and stenciled, heavy in a way cardboard isn't supposed to be. Inside, gold bars. Not a handful, 6,800 of them, waiting on a flight out. A shipment had been left there overnight. Ordinary Saturday logistics, the robbers didn't know, because nobody knew. Now, the problem with gold is the thing films never show you. It's absurdly, stupidly heavy. One bar is about the size of a chocolate box, and weighs like a packed carry-on case. Now do that 6,800 times, at speed, by hand, into a waiting van. They'd brought a van sized for cash, and cash is light. Cash is basically paper in a bag. So they load until the suspension sits down on the axles, and then they keep loading anyway. It takes them nearly 2 hours inside a building they'd meant to leave in about 20 minutes. And they still can't take it all. Some bars stay behind, purely because there's nowhere left to put them. They drive out of Heathrow, with 3 tons of gold, and no real plan for any of it. By 9, detectives are standing in that warehouse doing the arithmetic everyone in Britain is about to do. £26 million, in 1983 money. Enough to buy a London street, and still have change. But the good detectives aren't staring at the empty vault. They're staring at that side door. Because the door isn't damaged. And an undamaged door changes what kind of case this is. A forced door means outsiders and a lucky guess. An unforced door means someone inside the building. Then, add the combinations. Knowing which 2 men to grab isn't something you learn from the car park. So the question stops being, who robbed the warehouse, and becomes who works at the warehouse. And that's a short, boring, unglamorous list of names sitting on a payroll. The team does exactly what you'd do. Interview every member of staff, pull every personnel file. This isn't brilliant detective work. It's a phone, a filing cabinet, and a lot of gray afternoons. One name on that list is Anthony Black. Security guard. He'd turned up late for his shift. Late means nothing by itself. You've been late. Late as a bus, or an alarm that didn't go. But it's in the file now, sitting next to every other small thing in the file. So they run the routine checks. Addresses, relatives, anything with his name printed on it. And here's where it flips. On a document nobody in that room expected to matter. Anthony Black has a sister. His sister is married, and her husband is a man called Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson is a career armed robber, the kind South London detectives already keep a folder on. They called him the Colonel, for how carefully he planned things. He had planned this one. There it's. Not a fingerprint, not an informant, a marriage certificate and a family tree. Nobody had asked Black about his brother-in-law, because that isn't a question anyone thinks to ask. You've ticked a box saying you're not related to anyone here. You ticked it without thinking about your sister's husband. That's the mechanism. Vetting checks whether you seem trustworthy. It almost never checks who you're connected to. If that just reframes something for you, that's exactly what this channel is for. Stick around. Black is brought in for questioning. He holds out for a while, then he stops holding out. He admits it. The keys, the layout, the alarm procedure, and the names of the men with the numbers. Police said he'd smuggled a key out weeks earlier to be copied. About 1 minute of work. Then he names them. Brian Robinson and Mickey McAvoy, the other man running the job. Black gets 6 years, serves about half, gives evidence in court, and leaves prison as somebody else. New name, new life, no contact with anyone he'd ever known. That's the price of talking. By then, McAvoy had bought a mansion and 2 Rottweilers. He'd named them Brinks and Matt. In December 1984, Robinson and McAvoy get 25 years each. 13 months from raid to sentence. Case closed. Except the gold is still missing, and the gold is where this turns genuinely strange. Because 3 tons of stolen bullion isn't money yet. It's a problem shaped like money. Every bar is stamped. Serial numbers, refinery marks, assay details. Sell one and you've confessed in writing. You can't spend it, bank it, or move it quietly. You can only stop it being itself. So they do the only thing left. They melt it down, and the evidence stops existing. The man who solved that problem was Kenneth Noye. He understood gold, and he understood people. Bars went into a furnace. What came out were ingots that looked like nothing in particular. Copper was reportedly mixed in, along with gold coins, so the finished metal wouldn't match the stolen assay. It was sold on through a Bristol bullion firm called Scadlin, on paperwork that looked almost normal. Almost. Because a small West Country company suddenly shifting millions in gold is exactly what banks notice. Cash withdrawals ran into the millions. Eventually somebody in a branch picked up a telephone. And that phone call is what puts a police surveillance team into a private garden in Kent, at night. January 1985. Detective Constable John Fordham is watching Noye's property, in camouflage, in the dark. Noye's Rottweilers find him before anyone human does, and the whole operation stops being an operation. There's a confrontation nobody planned. Fordham is stabbed. He dies there, in the grounds of the house. A police officer killed in a garden, over metal taken from a warehouse 14 months earlier. Noye said he believed he was being attacked and acted in fear. A jury acquitted him of murder. It didn't save him on the gold. He was convicted of handling it and got 14 years. Years later, in 1996, Kenneth Noye killed a young man called Stephen Cameron, beside the M25. A road rage fight after a minor collision. Stephen was 21. His girlfriend watched it happen. Noye was convicted of that murder. The gold kept producing bodies long after the robbery ended. Newspapers started calling it the curse of Brinks, Matt, which is a tidy word for something very untidy. There's no curse. There's an enormous pile of untraceable money and a long queue of people wanting it. So, where did it actually go? Some was recovered. Some was clawed back slowly by insurance loss adjusters. They followed it through companies, property deals, and bank accounts for the rest of their working lives. But most of it was never found. Not most of the men, most of the metal. And once it's melted, it isn't stolen gold anymore. It's just gold, with no story attached. It becomes rings, chains, watch cases. It gets sold in ordinary shops to ordinary people. There's a line detectives have repeated for 40 years, and it's the one you'll actually remember. If you own gold jewelry bought in Britain since 1983, you may be wearing a piece of it. Nobody can prove that about any single ring. Nobody can disprove it either. That's what melting buys you. Here's the part worth keeping. The vault held. The alarm held. The staff were vetted. The paperwork wasn't. Security fails at the boring end. The unread box on a form. The relative nobody thought to declare. 6 armed men beat Britain's most secure warehouse, and 1 unchecked marriage certificate beat them in 13 months. 6 guards were terrorized that morning, and a detective was killed 15 months later. That's the real cost. Subscribe and I'll take you inside Hatton Garden next, another perfect plan undone by something just as small. Cases like this deserve to be remembered. Like and subscribe so the next one isn't forgotten.